morning, Bucknuts. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Friday, May 11th, 2018. I am Dave Biddle. Very happy to be joined by Jonah Booker. Jay Book, we haven't talked in a couple of weeks. Good to talk to you, my friend. Let's just start right at the top. The Dwayne Haskins era has officially started. Yeah, we can finally say that. Maybe the Tate Martell family doesn't agree with that, but I'm comfortable saying the Dwayne Haskins era has officially started. Just your reaction to that and Joe Burrow's transfer.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that Haskins won the job. I know you and I, over the past several weeks, all through spring ball, we had touched on it, and I had said the whole time I thought Haskins would be the guy. I know in the boarding house on the front row, one of the sources mentioned that the Michigan game was a key metric point for him. You just can't dismiss that. So I'm looking forward to it. I think there's a whole new buzz around the program as far as having fresh blood at the quarterback. I actually think Dwayne Haskins is going to have a monster season. I have put on Twitter, I'm calling it right now, I think Dwayne Haskins will break Joe Germaine's single-season quarterback record for passing yards at 3,300. If you look at Dwayne Haskins' skill set with his arms, he's able to make all the throws. Some of those wide receivers that are coming out of their breaks, that ball is going to be right there in their rib cage before they even get their head snapped around. There's going to be a vast difference in the passing attack than what we've seen in the past. Even with J.T. Barrett and his limitations, struggling to throw the ball at times, he still threw for over 3,000 yards, which was like third or fourth all-time quarterback school record. So I think Dwayne Haskins has a legitimate shot to crush Joe Germaine's quarterback school record.
That was going to be my next question. Expectations for Haskins in 2018. And I'm with you. And people are like, oh, you guys are crazy. You're already predicting he's going to break school records. Well, we're not acting like he's going to throw for 5,000 yards to win the Heisman. The bar is relatively low. Joe Germaine had a fantastic season in 1998, but that still was during the era where you're playing like 12, maybe 13 games maximum in a season. I mean, you got to think the Buckeyes, if everything goes well, they're going to be playing 14 games this year, maybe 15 if things go really well. And just the way the game has changed, I think Urban Meyer now with the pro-style quarterback and Ryan Day and Kevin Wilson helping him out, I really feel like they're going to go less zone read. If they're going to hand the ball off, I think it's going to be usually the running backs. They're going to mix in some quarterback keepers, of course, just to keep the defense honest. But they're going to be throwing the ball down the field and just throwing the ball more in general. So 3,300 yards, a little north of 3,300 yards, basically 3,400 yards for Dwayne Haskins in 14 games. I mean, yeah, I'm with you. I think if he stays healthy, Jonah, I think he's going to break that record.
And then you look at the talent that he has coming back. He has his entire skill position group coming back. They're going to rely on the run game early on to get him comfortable, so he's going to have a two-headed monster at running back. He has a defense he's going to be able to rely on because he has 3 first-round draft picks on the defensive line. So what does that tell you? That tells you there's a high percentage chance the defense will give him the football back, meaning more possessions, because they're going to be able to get after the quarterback. I'm very bullish on him breaking that record. One thing that you saw that this offense executed extremely well was those crossing routes and a lot of those intermediate throws. He can make those type of throws in his sleep. The ball will get out on time. Once that ball is out on time, what it's going to do is going to allow the wide receivers to catch it in stride, so they're going to rack up major yak yards with Haskins at quarterback. And then who knows? Ohio State didn't really connect on those deep throws last year, and J.T. Barrett still threw for 3,000 yards. So if Haskins can knock out a couple of those deep throws and some home run hitting plays, he's going to crush it. And then you mentioned he's going to have at least an extra game potentially than Joe Germaine had. So I think it's very realistic that he's going to have a monster season. Now, some people ask, can 3,300 yards get him all Big Ten quarterback? I don't know, but if you tell me my first year starting quarterback is going to throw for 3,300 yards, I'm going to tell you Ohio State will be in the national championship hunt, pushing for a potential playoff berth.
Regarding Joe Burrow, let's touch on him for a little bit. I know there's fans out there that were, hoping he was going to be the starting quarterback. I think that if I had to guess, I think there was a majority of Buckeye fans that thought Dwayne Haskins should be the guy. But it wasn't like a crazy majority. But I think most Buckeye fans, if I just had to, I feel like I have a pretty good pulse on Buckeye Nation. I'm sure you feel like the same way. I feel like most fans wanted Haskins to win the job, but there was a faction that wanted Burrow to win the job. To those people, what do you say? I mean, obviously, I think he's going to do well wherever he goes. What do you say to the people that might be a little sad that Joe Burrow's moving on?
I think they have every right to be sad, and I think if you ask me percentage-wise, I would say it was probably 55-45 as far as the Buckeye Nation wanting Haskins or Joe. You just wish the kid luck. I mean, the coaches made their decision. You have a guy in Dwayne Haskins who fits more of the mold of what Kevin Wilson's used to. He's a younger guy, so they're going to have more time to help develop him. And the thing is Joe performed well in the spring, but I felt like going in, he had to absolutely outplay Dwayne Haskins to make it a situation where the coaches feel comfortable announcing that he's the starter. Due to the situation that he's in as a grad transfer and limited time that he has left, he couldn't risk staying at Ohio State without having a guaranteed assurance that he was going to be the man. And there was no indications that he clearly outplayed Dwayne Haskins for him to get that type of guarantee from the coaching staff.
Tate Martell now is the number 2 quarterback, and, some people might think he can challenge for the number 1 job. I'm not one of those people. I don't think you are either, but it's a huge luxury to have a kid like this as the backup quarterback. I think there's a lot of fans out there, Jonah, maybe not a lot, that there's some Ohio State fans that look at what happened in the spring game. They're like, oh, man, I can't believe we're really in trouble if Tate Martell has to play. Do you know how many teams across the country, I'm talking power programs, would kill to have a kid like Tate Martell as their backup? And I will remind everybody, they weren't even playing like touch football, two-hand touch football in the spring game. It wasn't just like they weren't playing real football. They weren't even playing two-hand touch. They're playing like one-finger touch in the spring game. And, of course, Tate Martell, you take away his best attribute, creativity and all that, he's not going to look great. But I'm still bullish on him as a backup. I don't think he's going to push Haskins for the starting job. But to have Martell as the backup, I think that's a luxury, Jonah. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you. Tate Martell, to me, brings that juice to the table. I know we had in the boarding house that he's a heck of a locker room guy. He's really developing as a leader. I like what he brings to the table. He gives us a different dynamic that teams are going to have to prepare for, especially when they're going to have sub-packages for him to come in and utilize his legs. I like where he's headed as far as a quarterback. He brings a certain swagger to the table that I admire as a fan watching. So I'm very bullish on him as well. I think he's going to be a heck of a football player for this team. And Tate Martell is going to play a lot of football this season. One, he's going to get on the field in packages that they want to utilize with his legs. And two, he's going to see a lot of time in potential blowout games. So we're going to see a lot of Tate Martell. And that's a good thing for Ohio State fans because the more live reps he can get, the faster he's going to develop. And there's not a lot of teams in the country that will be able to say we can, if push comes to shove, we have a guy that we can also win football games with.
J-Book, news broke yesterday that Wayne Davis is leaving the program. Kid was a 4-star recruit. Undersized, they moved him from corner to safety, just was buried on the depth chart. Seems like a great young man. One of these kids will probably go to like a smaller school and just tear it up. Your thoughts on Wayne Davis leaving the program?
Yeah, we wish him nothing but the best. It was kind of a writing on the wall situation right here. He really got buried on the depth chart, and I know and Matt Burrell touched on it in the interview last week where he talked about if you are playing at Ohio State, it's always on your mind that it's a numbers game, that they're going to bring guys in that are just as good as you, if not better, coming in right away. It's just a matter of them developing. So Wayne Davis was a guy that got really caught up in the numbers crunch. He didn't really find a home. He started at corner, moved to safety, never really picked the position up as quick as they would like, ended up getting jumped on the depth chart. But that's the life of Ohio State football. There's always going to be talent that comes in through the door. I hope the guy finishes his education and has a stellar career wherever he decides to go.
It puts the Buckeyes at 85 scholarships now. C.J. Saunders was given a scholarship. You have, as you mentioned, Matt Burrell transferred now, Wayne Davis. They're down to 85. People might say, does that mean Dante Booker is sticking around? We'll see. I tend to think Urban Meyer wants to add a quarterback, and he's not going to add like some stud, but like a grad transfer that would be able to come to Ohio State, maybe a kid that's already a backup somewhere else that can say, and Urban might promise him, listen, I'll make sure you at least get in games and blowouts along with Tate Martell. But I feel like the Buckeyes are going to try and add a grad transfer quarterback. So all the people out there wondering, now that they're 85, does that mean Dante Booker is staying? Maybe. I don't know, though, and I think Urban wants to add a quarterback as a grad transfer. It's just my gut feeling. Your thoughts on all that?
I would be surprised if they do add a grad transfer, just for the simple fact that the Ohio State playbook is pretty thick. They said they're able now to really open it up with the guys that they have. So having a grad transfer, yes, it will help with experience as well as the locker room. If you have the spot, it wouldn't hurt. But the thing is if you bring in a grad transfer, the question I have is, will it be a 1 or a 2 year guy? If it's a 1 year guy, I'm okay with it. 2 year guy, I would say bank that scholarship if you have it, because you don't want to take away from you don't want to take away from the class that they're working on right now. And if you're going to bring in a 2 year grad transfer who's just basically going to sit behind Dwayne Haskins. So if you got a 1 year guy, okay. Now, as far as Dante Booker, it's a major question mark. There's question marks on if this guy is even going to continue to play football, considering the amount of injuries that he's had and missed all of spring because of injuries. Will he even be healthy enough to get on the field or even be cleared to play football, to resume football again? So there's a lot of question marks out there with Booker. Like you said, nobody knows if he's even going to be back or he's going to be gone. He could leave, go somewhere else and play. He could be back with the Buckeyes, or his football career could be over due to the amount of injuries that he sustained. So it's a wait and see with him.
Great wisdom and insights, as always, from Jonah Booker. Thank you very much, J-Book. You can catch his column every week on Bucknuts. It is outside Columbus. Thanks again to J-Book, and thanks to all the listeners out there for tuning in to the show. I hope you have a great day and a great weekend. Let's hear the Buckeyes swag, best damn band in the land.